If you thought Coronation Street couldn't get any darker this summer, think again, because Weatherfield's newest villain is about to leave a trail of destruction that could put Tracy Barlow in a hospital bed and send shockwaves through the entire cobbles. A predator has been hiding in plain sight, charming his way into the heart of one family, while quietly destroying the life of another, and now the truth is exploding into the open in the most dangerous way possible. Grab a cup of tea and settle in, because this is one Corrie story you do not want to scroll past. For weeks now, Coronation Street viewers have watched with a growing sense of dread as Ross curtly wormed his way into Weatherfield life. On the surface, he seemed like exactly what Tyrone Dobbs needed, a long-lost biological father, finally back in the picture, eager to build a relationship with a son he never really knew. Tracy Barlow, ever quick to find a new man to gush over, even started describing Ross as a real alpha male, swept up in his charm along with seemingly everyone else in the Rover's return. But underneath that easy smile and confident swagger, Coronation Street has been quietly building one of its most disturbing storylines in years, and it all centers on exactly who Ross curtly really is. For those who haven't been following every twist, here's the essential background you need. Ross is Tyrone's father, a man who vanished from his son's life decades ago and only recently resurfaced in Weatherfield. Tyrone, played by Alan Halsall, has spent years being messed around by unreliable parental figures, so when Ross showed up wanting to reconnect, it was an emotional lifeline for a character who has never quite gotten the stable family life he craved. Cassie Plummer, played by Claire Sweeney, is Tyrone's birth mother, a recovering addict who has fought hard to rebuild her relationship with her son after years of estrangement. So when Ross entered the picture, it should have been complicated enough as it was. Instead, it became something far more sinister, because Cassie recognized him immediately, and not as a doting long-lost dad. She recognized him as the man who paid her for sex when she was just 15 years old. That revelation landed like a bomb in Weatherfield. Cassie, desperate to protect her son from a predator masquerading as a proud father, tried to warn Tyrone, only to be dismissed. Ross had already ingratiated himself so thoroughly into the family that nobody wanted to believe her, and in a particularly cruel twist, Cassie's own troubled past made her an easy target to discredit. Undeterred, Cassie escalated her campaign to expose him, at one point even bringing in Ross's ex-girlfriend Allison Shave to reveal how he had stolen money from her and subjected her to threats and intimidation. Slowly but surely, the mask has been slipping, and the show has been building toward a reckoning that fans have been begging for since the character first appeared. Now here's where things take a genuinely alarming turn, and it's the reason Coronation Street fans are talking about this storyline more than almost anything else on British television right now. Recent scenes saw Cassie make her most explosive move yet, standing up at Ross's own birthday party and telling Tyrone the full, ugly truth in front of the whole family. The party guests, including Tracy, had been happily toasting to Ross as the life of the celebration only moments earlier. Instead, they watched Cassie detonate his carefully constructed reputation, revealing exactly how he abused his position of power over a vulnerable teenage girl. It's the kind of gut-punch moment Coronation Street is best, turning a celebration into a scene of horror in a matter of seconds. But rather than being run out of Weatherfield in disgrace, Ross has shown just how dangerous he really is. Instead of slinking away, he has doubled down, manipulating the people around him and turning the emotional chaos to his advantage. Steve MacDonald, ever protective of the people he loves, has grown deeply suspicious of Ross's erratic and controlling behavior, and that unease has only intensified after Ross secured a job at Highfield Prison, meaning he has no intention of leaving the area anytime soon. Cassie, growing increasingly desperate and unraveled by the stress of trying to protect her son from a man nobody else seems willing to believe her about, made a reckless decision of her own, secretly spiking Ross's drink with tablets in an attempt to make him fail the drugs test required for his new job. It was a plan built on desperation rather than logic, and it backfired spectacularly when Steve discovered the empty packet, leading to the end of his relationship with Cassie and Tyrone throwing her out of the family home altogether. It's against this backdrop of spiraling chaos that the storyline fans are now bracing for has started to take shape, and it centers squarely on Tracy Barlow. With Cassie cast out, isolated, and increasingly unstable after a whiskey-fueled low point, she has announced she's planning to leave Weatherfield behind entirely to work on a cruise ship. But before she can make her escape, Ross offers her a lift, and in a chilling final image, locks the car doors behind her. It's a moment dripping with menace, and it has left viewers asking whether Ross is capable of far worse than manipulation and financial abuse. If he's willing to trap Cassie the moment she becomes inconvenient to him, what happens to anyone else who threatens to expose him or get in his way, including the woman who has been happily dating him and singing his praises to anyone who'll listen? That's exactly the fear rippling through the Coronation Street fan community right now. With Ross's mask well and truly off, and with Tracy having spent weeks defending him, praising him, and dismissing Cassie's warnings, there is a very real sense building among viewers that Tracy is being set up as Ross's next target, or at the very least, as someone about to get caught in the blast radius of his unraveling. Spoiler previews have already teased that Tracy continues to ignore Cassie's warnings even as the picture of who Ross really is becomes impossible to deny, and soap fans know all too well that Coronation Street loves to let a character get dangerously close to a predator before pulling the rug out from under them in the most dramatic way imaginable. Talk has been building online that this could culminate in a genuine medical emergency for Tracy, whether through Ross drugging her the way Cassie tried to drug him, or through the sheer trauma and danger of getting tangled up in his increasingly volatile behavior. Whether that takes the shape of a literal spiking storyline or a wider health scare brought on by the chaos Ross leaves in his wake, the show has been laying every piece of groundwork needed for Tracy to end up in a hospital bed before the saga reaches its conclusion. Fan reaction to this storyline has been fierce, and it says a lot about how effectively Coronation Street has told this story that so many viewers are genuinely rattled by it. Social media has been flooded with comments from fans praising the show for tackling such a difficult and important subject with real weight rather than sensationalism, with many pointing out how devastatingly the show has portrayed the way predators can hide behind charm and manufactured warmth, worming their way into families and communities while their victims struggle to be believed. At the same time, there has been real anger directed at Ross as a character, with fans flooding forums and comment sections calling for his comeuppance and demanding that Tracy wake up to the truth before it's too late. Entertainment outlets covering British soaps have highlighted this as one of the standout storylines of the year, with several pointing to Claire Sweeney's performance as Cassie as some of the most powerful work she's done on the show, portraying a woman fighting to be heard while everyone around her chooses comfortable denial instead. There's also been considerable discussion about the responsibility Coronation Street is taking on by depicting this kind of abuse of power and manipulation, with some praising the storyline's realism in showing exactly how difficult it can be for survivors to get people to listen, especially when the perpetrator has spent months building trust and charm within a community. So, what could all of this mean going forward for the characters caught in Ross's orbit? For Tracy, this storyline represents genuinely uncharted territory. Kate Ford's character has weathered countless dramatic storylines over the decades, from murder trials to messy divorces, but rarely has she been positioned as quite so vulnerable to a predator hiding in plain sight. If the show does follow through with a hospitalization storyline, it would mark one of the more physically dangerous chapters in Tracy's long history on the cobbles, and fans are eager to see how her family, particularly her father Ken and her ex-husband Steve, would respond to discovering she'd been endangered by a man they'd already grown suspicious of. There's also the tantalizing question of what a shock exit might actually mean. Soap exits rarely mean what they first appear to mean. It could signal a genuine departure for Tracy from Weatherfield altogether, perhaps recovering away from the cobbles after a traumatic ordeal, Or it could be a far darker twist tied to Ross's own storyline reaching its climax, with speculation swirling that his behavior is escalating towards something the show has been building toward as an eventual exit of his own, whether through exposure, arrest, or a much more permanent departure from the cast. For Cassie, this storyline is a fascinating character study in what happens when a person's past trauma makes them the least credible witness to their own abuse. Having spent so long trying to warn her son and the wider community, only to be dismissed, discredited, and ultimately cast out of the family entirely, her arc raises important questions about how the show will eventually vindicate her and whether that vindication will come too late to prevent further harm. Claire Sweeney has spoken in the past about wanting to bring nuance and humanity to Cassie's more chaotic choices, and this spiking storyline, however reckless, only underscores just how far she feels she has to go to protect the people she loves when nobody else will listen. As for Ross himself, actor Michael Condren has been quietly building one of Coronation Street's most unsettling villain performances in recent memory, layering charisma over menace so effectively that even longtime viewers found themselves second-guessing Cassie's accusations in the early days of the storyline. That's exactly what makes this kind of storyline so effective and so uncomfortable to watch. It mirrors real-world dynamics where abusers are frequently the most well-liked, trusted figures in a room, and their victims are the ones left fighting to be believed. Where the show takes his character next remains to be seen, but given the direction spoilers are already pointing, from the car door lock scene with Cassie to the mounting suspicion from Steve, it feels increasingly likely that Ross's reign of manipulation in Weatherfield is heading toward a dramatic and possibly violent reckoning in the very near future. There's also plenty of speculation swirling about exactly how this storyline resolves. Some fans believe Tracy will be the one to finally see through Ross, perhaps after a dangerous encounter of her own, triggering the very hospital emergency being rumored and forcing the entire street to reckon with what's been happening under their noses. Others believe Cassie will find a way to gather undeniable proof of his crimes, possibly with help from Allison Shave or another of his past victims, leading to a police investigation and a very public downfall. There's also chatter that Tyrone, once he processes the full weight of what his father has done, could become central to finally driving Ross out of Weatherfield for good, redeeming a relationship with his mother that has been so badly damaged throughout this ordeal. Whatever direction the show ultimately takes, it's clear that Coronation Street has been meticulously building toward a climax that could reshape the Dobbs and Kirtley families for years to come. To wrap things up, here's where things currently stand. Ross Kirtley has been exposed as a predator with a horrifying history involving Cassie Plummer, and despite that truth coming out in the most public and devastating way possible, he remains embedded in Weatherfield life, charming Tracy Barlow and holding on to his relationship with son Tyrone. Cassie's desperate attempt to sabotage him backfired badly, costing her both her relationship with Steve and her place in the family home, and Ross's chillingly controlling moment locking Cassie in his car has left fans deeply worried about just how far his menace could extend. With spoilers confirming that Tracy continues to ignore every warning being thrown her way, speculation is mounting that she could be the next character to suffer at Ross's hands, potentially in scenes dramatic enough to land her in hospital, with talk of a shock exit adding even more uncertainty to how this gripping and unsettling storyline will ultimately play out. This is shaping up to be one of the most talked about and important storylines Coronation Street has tackled in a long time, and it's not slowing down anytime soon. Do you think Tracy is walking straight into danger, or will she see through Ross before it's too late? Let us know exactly what you think is coming next down in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into everything happening on the cobbles, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe for more Coronation Street news, spoilers, and updates the moment they break.